Pulling the Trigger is sponsored by Easy Vape North Shore, the industry's leading direct retailer of the highest quality personal vaporizers, e-cigs, vapes, and Canadian-made e-juice. Located at 987 Marine Drive in North Vancouver, or you can check them out online at www.easyvapecanada.com. You can also donate to our Patreon account. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it easy for artists and creators to connect with their fans and get paid. That's at www.patreon.com/MarkHughesComic. And please like our Facebook page at facebook.com/PTG604. Welcome to Pulling the Trigger. My name is Mark Hughes, and this is my podcast. As always, it is expertly and wonderfully produced, edited, polished, and posted and promoted by Taylor Murray. Pulling the Trigger is sponsored by our friends at Jackal Events. Jackal Events is a Vancouver-based event organization company specializing in political events and comedy shows. Jackal Events' next event is Danny Polishuk Live in Vancouver. That's March 31st at the Rickshaw Theatre, 254 East Hastings. Tickets are available at www.pickatic.com. I'm actually going to be on that show, as well as the guest for today's or Thursday's episode, but we'll get to that in a second. So what's going on for me? Well, I am just plugging away, as usual. One of the things is I don't like leading with this. I don't like talking about it all the time, but it's I struggle with mental illness. As most people know, I have used to have a drug addiction, and I have PTSD. So life can be a bit tricky sometimes. Mostly I'm fine, but I get triggered very easily. And I don't mean triggered like I read a word on the internet and now I need to tell everyone that they need to stop talking about it. I get triggered by the dumbest stuff. A tone of voice, a facial expression. If conflict can trigger me. Internet's the worst for it. I shouldn't even be using the internet, to be totally honest. It's really bad for me, especially with the way I talk on there. I invite so much problems, right? And so it can wear me down sometimes, and it makes it difficult for me to have close, intimate relationships. Unfortunately, sometimes because I have a lot of trust issues, so it's hard. I'm a slow burn when it comes to getting to know people anyway, and then I'm just so fucking sensitive sometimes. It's a pain in the ass. And, my life's pretty good. And I have to remember sometimes that I've worked my fucking ass off to get where I am. I've had lots of help too, but it did take a lot of effort. So I don't want to get too hard down on myself, but it sucks sometimes knowing that, at least for now, for the foreseeable future, I'm going to have problems in certain areas that the average person doesn't. Like I'll get torqued and fucked off at something that someone else will go, what's the big deal? I don't even understand what that is. And I'm like, I know, but I am fucking choked right now. And they shouldn't have disagreed with me, or I don't like how they had that tone in their voice. What the fuck did they mean by that? I'm super paranoid. I go right back to the streets and or prison. It's embarrassing too, because I can get so worked up about it. And it's not always just there for me to catch. Sometimes it happens so fast I can't get out of it. So I have to use flashback management techniques and stuff like that. And, just throughout interviewing people for this podcast, I've really learned, I didn't know the work I've done on my life until I've sort of come out on the other end. I've got Chuckles now attacking my feet. Chuckles is my ferret. And now that I talk to other people and I'm able to pay my rent and I'm not stealing from people and I'm not getting triggered and having flashbacks every couple days, I can actually, as corny as it might sound, I can actually celebrate my victories here. Hard-won victories, but victories nonetheless. And I think that there's no easy way to change your life. It's going to be difficult. Change is hard no matter what. I remember someone said to me one time in this violent offender program I was taking in the penitentiary, that if you ever want to change it, if you ever want to see how hard it is to change a habit, put your toothbrush in a different spot and see how just out of habit you'll always go to the same spot, and then you may even crack after a few days because it just becomes inconvenient. Now imagine trying to change hardwired belief systems and values and behavior patterns and stuff like that were coping strategies against horrible shit that happened to you. Yeah, it's tough. So when people talk about like society has to adapt to to accommodate the marginalized types, people on the downtown east side, drug addicts, etc., I think it would be nice if we were a bit more accommodating of people, maybe a bit more tolerant of different people, maybe a bit more tolerant of types who don't present well. That's my biggest beef with society, is especially social justice types. I'm sorry, but it's true. Sometimes they only like people, the ones who apparently and ostensibly advocate for the marginalized, will only do so if you present a right way. Like, they forget that not everyone had an upper middle class upbringing or was university educated or was socialized with peers that are pretty much socioeconomically the same as they were. So if someone's going to come from the downtown east side or its equivalent somewhere else, they're going to be a bit quote unquote rough around the edges. I don't think people need handouts necessarily. I don't think that we need to bend over backwards to accommodate people, especially if they're difficult. But I think we need to be a bit more tolerant sometimes. I think there does need to be space available for people to integrate back into. We also need to know that someone's integration may not be getting a graphic design job or getting a liberal arts degree. They may be okay just having a small little job that only goes so far in life, but is good enough for them. Like, I don't have a lot of ambitions academically. People are always trying to push me into going into university. I can't stand university. I would much prefer to just do what I'm doing right now and live the life of, well, not leisure, but because comedy's fucking hard, but I'm doing what I want to do. And it's sort of weird and it sort of doesn't make sense. But I like it. And I think other people need to find what they like too. Which brings me to our today's guest. Today's guest is a guy I met through doing comedy. And him and I agree on many different things, and we have similar views on many different things. And hold on, I just got a private message here. I just got to respond to it. Yeah, this is difficult because I have to get this because this person's hardly ever online. Yeah, you're a window into my life. There we go. And so anyway, him and I, we talk all the time. He's got a very interesting life. Former soldier, now stand-up comic, and now he's doing one-man show type stuff. He's got an event coming up. It's called Morris Bartlett is at War, and it's 2 dates, February 9th and February 10th at Havana Theater. They're both at 8 o'clock. Tickets are available on Eventbrite. Havana Theater is 1212 Commercial Drive, Vancouver. So yeah, Morris and I, you'll hear about it in the interview. But we have struggling being different. Him coming from a military background, me coming from the prison background, which there are so many parallels. And what's in our head, what isn't, how do you adjust back into society? I mean, I think a lot of cool stuff gets covered in this episode. So, without further ado, Morris Bartlett.
I want to hear about like hairy ass shit, then like.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, we're recording. Just
all right, dope.
Yeah, hairy ass shit, just like your chest.
Nice.
What'd you do today? Anything?
Fucking nothing. Jerked off. I'm finally taking the week off that I've been telling myself I'd take for 3 months.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it's nice. I just came back from... Did I tell you? I came back from Vernon. I made a World War II Army camp for a movie set.
Oh, okay. And can you talk about the movie at all? Or?
I mean, it's called Peace. It's like a $5 to $8 million budget sort of thing. I read the script. It's quite all right. It's nice. You know, it's in like Italy in World War II. And so we were out in like the Vernon Colonna area, like up in mountains and shit. It was dope as shit.
Question about that. I've always thought, and I think I've maybe even heard, but I can't remember, when you just do that part of it, you still can't see what the movie's going to look like, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't there.
It's hard to get an idea of what, like, you do one thing, and you can't tell one way or the other if it's going to be good or not, right?
I mean, you can definitely tell, like, how good of a job you did, and
Right.
you get a sense of how well the production's running,
Right.
right? But, like, yeah, I wasn't there on filming day, so I don't know what they shot or what they didn't shoot, or if it's going to be good, but, I mean, I'm really proud of what we did, so I'll fucking take it, you know?
Fucking A. Hello, everybody. This is Pulling the Trigger, as you know, because there's a recorded intro that I do for this episode at a different time, but whatever. I'm joined here with Morris Bartlett today, who is a guy I know from doing comedy in Vancouver. Morris is a very interesting guy, and he's done a lot of interesting things, and comedy is actually, in my opinion, the least interesting thing you've done.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So why don't we start with who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well,
You're in film.
Yeah, I'm in film in like minor ways, not in front of the camera, you know. So
like production assistant stuff.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. I did some set decorating, you know, fill in here and there. It's really nice. I like hustling project to project. I spent 6 years in the Army, including a tour to Afghanistan. I've done a bunch of other stuff. I've been, you know, like a bouncer. I got into some nefarious activities here and there throughout my life that I probably shouldn't get into too much detail on, but I might. You know, shit like that.
Just remember, this is this goes out. I've told everyone who's like, I can edit out certain details afterwards, but let's say you give me half an hour of really juicy material, and then you're like, hey man, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not going to post it.
Yeah.
But then it's ruined the episode. You know what I mean? I'm not. I like one guy.
And anything I say, I'll make sure to file the serial numbers off. But there's nothing in my life that I'm really ashamed of.
So you're currently doing comedy. That's how we know each other.
Yeah. I'm a comedian.
How long have you been doing that for?
4 years and change.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going all right. I got that one man show, which has like been a bit of a career boost for me.
Nice.
It seems to be going well.
What's it about?
Well, it's about my Army career and my tour to Afghanistan. I got like about an hour plus on it. Okay,
what years were you in?
I was in 2006 to 2012, and I was overseas 2009 and 2010. And I was in the infantry, which is that's the pointy end of the whole thing. Although I didn't really do that much, like closing with and destroying the enemy, just because of the nature of modern warfare isn't really like that anymore very much.
That's already very interesting. Let's put that on the shelf. How did you get into the Army?
I mean, I watched the towers go down in school, and
meaning the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
9/11.
Yeah, 9/11. And I had just finished 10th grade social studies where they told me that in times of war, Canada stands up and goes over and frees Europe or whatever the fuck we do, right? And so I believed it. And then so after I got out of school, I bummed around for a little bit. I wasn't really doing anything, construction, that sort of thing. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I should do my patriotic duty. And so I joined up. Yeah. Basically, it was some way to avoid being a loser, and then also felt like I was, doing the right thing for my country that nobody else was doing for some reason. Apparently, we weren't that enthused about war that we really were actually joining up in large numbers.
I find, from my observations, you'd know better than me, that Canada isn't patriotic in the same way, as the United States.
Yeah, definitely not in that way as the States.
A lot of people in Canada seem to be against it. Totally.
Yeah.
Like, I'm amazed we even have an army, to be honest.
Yeah, kind of.
Because so many people are against it, I would have thought,
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, we have a really good peacekeeping tradition that we had for a long, long time.
Oh, I'm not shitting on the army, by the way.
No, totally. I understand. But, Iceland doesn't have an army, right? Greenland doesn't have an army.
They don't have one.
They mooch off of other Scandinavian countries. That's, literally their defense plan, is to have Norway come rescue them if something bad happens. So, I get that, and we are, we're intrinsically tied to the States, But I think not having that would be way too much of a danger for a country this large with this many resources, right? So, yeah.
So you joined the Army, what age, 18, 19?
I would have been about 20.
20?
Yeah.
So what did that look like? From the day you enrolled to... Why don't you tell the story as best you can without ruining your one-man show?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, so I joined up basic late in the summer, and I didn't know what the fuck I was in for, and neither did anybody else. And we got like that classic basic training experience,
like out of Full Metal Jacket.
Seriously,
for real.
Yeah, we had some. We had some combat arms guys leading our course. Not every course gets that. A lot of courses are like much more soft touch nowadays. But like we got the whole thing, and like honestly, it was huge for us. We were extremely proud of what we'd accomplished, right? We had a certain sort of cachet around the base for a basic platoon, right? We thought we were badass, and then the very moment that you're finished that, which at the time felt like the most difficult thing I had ever done, but as soon as I was done it, I was like, I could do that again. That was easy. Right, and so on into more courses. But in my job, I did about 10 months straight of that sort of basic training style thing, right? Learning shit and getting yelled at and getting your shit, like folding your sheets just right and getting it like flipped over, and these boots aren't shiny enough, and also learn how to shoot and use weapon systems and shit, that sort of thing, for like a year. And then I ended up in a base in New Brunswick. And that was super shitty, honestly.
Still haven't seen any action though yet, right? Action, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, is war combat. Shooting bad guys, or quote-unquote bad guys.
I was supposed to go over in 2007, but my dad fell ill. And also, I was the biggest bag of shit soldier in existence at the time.
How so? Like lazy kind of guy, or like
a little bit that. I mean, I was still a little bit lazy here and there, but no, not really. I think what it was is, there's a strong culture of like running and cardio, and I'm not a runner, right? I'm built like a fucking ox, so I'm not that guy. So that doesn't help.
You're a marathon guy.
No, not that
even,
either.
Okay.
I'm a carry heavy stuff guy.
Okay.
I'm a lift stuff dude. But so that, and then also, I was young and I wasn't very sure of myself, so something bad would happen and I'd get like freaked out about how I dropped the ball, and I'd start like spinning myself up about it, and then so I would drop the ball on more shit, and I'd just get like in this fucking hard spiral of fucking everything up. So that's essentially what happened for like the first year of my Army career. So my dad fell ill, and I took a posting back to near where I was from to help take care of him. And so I didn't go on that tour in 2007, which I suppose is lucky because the vehicle I would have been in got IED'd and 6 dudes died. So I would almost certainly be dead if I hadn't been a fuck up at the time.
See, sometimes helps, eh?
I guess, hey, right? I don't know. That's fucking weird though, just to think that like you go through life like thinking like, oh, do I deserve any of this anymore? Right? Do I deserve to get to be walking around? If I had done the right thing, I would be dead. So like, and there's
that's one of the reasons I hate to even say this because it's gone the wrong way. I don't really believe in God.
Sure.
Because of this shit. It seems so random and chaotic. I wish I could believe in God because it seems like it would give me some serenity.
Yeah.
But it's like doing the right thing would have blown you up.
Yep.
Doing the wrong thing saved your life.
Yep.
Doesn't make any sense,
no.
Right? And I hate talking about not believing in God because atheism has become fucking... I'm an atheist and religious people are stupid. And it's like, I don't believe that either anymore, right? It's this liberal lefty way of looking down. Like, a lot of people still need someone to bully, right?
Yep.
So religious people are on paper easy
Yeah.
to bully because they believe in an invisible guy, and
Yeah.
I think it's anyway.
No,
We'll talk
totally.
about that in another.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
We'll get to that. We're talking about you right now.
Okay, all right.
So 2007, you don't go over.
Yep.
Because of some personal reasons, but 2010 you did.
2009, yeah.
Yeah, 2009.
I ended up in a...
You're still in the Army the whole time, though.
Yeah,
right?
I'm still in the Army.
What does it look like when you're not fighting in the Army?
It a little bit depends on where you are and what your job is. There's like a lot of postings, but like a regular day in the battalion in a combat arm, like first thing in the morning we would have like a parade, not like a parade, but like everybody lined up in ranks and we get talked to for about 10 minutes, and then we'd all go on some kind of exercise, usually a run, right?
So they're keeping you trained the whole time,
Yeah.
ready to go at any time.
Yeah. That's the idea. So, like, I mean, you would spend probably at least 4 months of the year, like, in the field off in some training area, you know, attacking fake stuff, defending fake stuff, just
Live
making
ammunition
sure
and all that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
often. Making sure that your skills are up to date, or you would go on courses. But if you're just in the battalion, it's go for a run, and then the rest of the morning, just deal with whatever needs to be dealt with around the battalion, you know, like make sure the vehicles are, you know, are good to go, or clean guns, or, you know, whatever, busy work. And then, like, once that's done, often just play foosball and fucking talk shit about each other and avoid work. And, you know, maybe get another workout in and then fucking go home, right? But, I mean, that's only when there really wasn't anything to do. There was often lots and lots of training or field time or courses to be on. So that. But, yeah, day to day it could be super boring. Kind of like a regular job, except, you know, without regular job culture. Yeah. The people in it are like... It's wild, culturally speaking. Because, you know, we live in a very cautious society, and there's definitely still, like, in the Army, there's definitely still, like, real macho bullshit going on, right? Which I don't even necessarily think is a bad thing, frankly.
When I got it, you and I, one of the things you and I have bonded over quite a bit is the similarities between prison and the military. Right?
Yeah.
Well, because prison's based on the military to a certain degree, right? Like
I can see that, yeah.
They regiment it similarly, right? So all big institutions like that
Yep.
are based off of military principles.
Yep.
Police, fire, like yeah, they look quite a bit different, but when you look at sort of the
Yep.
structure of them, it's like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
why they're like that. So, and a culture is, I, from the sounds of it, like guys who've been in the Army fit in prison really easy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see how some stuff would be different, but, you know, you'd have that basics, you know, of, like, how to treat people, how to interact with people, how to stand up for yourself.
The thing I find, and I don't know if it's like this for you, but you could maybe expand on it, is like that macho guy stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
The thing I found the hardest to transition to this day,
Yeah.
I've been out of prison a long time, and to this day, how people talk to people out here.
Yeah.
Like passive-aggressive little weaselly comments and stuff like that, and I'm like...
Yeah.
Where I came from, you just wouldn't talk to people. Like if you had a problem with something, you fucking tell them.
Yeah,
you have a
yeah.
problem. You don't do these little...
You would out with it, or it wasn't important enough.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either you deal with it or you fucking don't.
Right, and there's always a threat of violence from where I came from too, right?
Yeah,
Which I don't necessarily disagree with either. Sometimes a fist fight can diffuse things. Like, I don't mean grab a knife and a 2x4, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think, okay, so, like, the Army can't decide if it wants fighting to be okay, right?
Fist fighting.
Fist fighting.
Yeah.
Like, interpersonal, but, like, they would do a thing where, you know, like, if you would get into a fight, you would be in trouble, for sure, right? Like, there might be a charge involved, which an Army charge is a different situation, but it's still serious. At the very least, you would get, like, a bunch of extra duties. Your life would suck for a while, but, like, also they'd be like, was it worth it? Did you win? Right? Like, and there would be a couple times a year where there was, like, opportunities to, like, get out whatever you felt the need to get out, kind of violence-wise. Like, they'd be a little regimented. Like, every year we would have, on a regimental birthday, we would have a sport that we invented called Broomaloo, which was based loosely on broomball in that it used broomball equipment, but it is essentially a drinking activity where people get to just really lay into each other quite physically, right? So if you decided that you needed to solve like what's been an ongoing issue, then you can just quietly make sure you get on the opposite team of somebody for Broomaloo, and then, you know, like at some point he's going to have the ball and we'll solve this, right? Or like even just on the sidelines, right? Like they would have what they would call like a breathing sideline. Everybody would be drunk. And if somebody that the sidelines didn't particularly like, often an officer got within like arm's reach, they would get snagged into the crowd and like put face down in the snow and pantsed, right? Like relatively benign things, but you know, still to like let them know like, hey, you've been fucking it up, right? And not that I think that we should be solving things with violence, but the idea that our interpersonal conflicts could lead to violence puts a check on the way we treat each other.
I find it forces at least an attempt usually at conflict resolution.
Yeah, I think so too.
Rather than letting it fester and like then it comes out in funny little sideways things and stuff like that.
Or even also, I noticed that like if there is a possibility of violence at the far end of a thing, at some point somebody will just go, this is clearly more important to you than it is to me, right? You may be wrong, but okay, it's yours, right? So there's that, you know? Yeah, ironically, I think the possibility of violence makes us treat each other better.
I agree.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I've had a hard time doing comedy is because of this, right? But we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, sure.
So, all right. 2009.
Yeah. Okay. 2009, I went over to Afghanistan. The stand-up fighting was largely done by that point.
And you don't mean comedy fighting?
Yeah. No, I mean
Stupid joke,
the actual like see an enemy, close with and destroy, and shoot an enemy. Most of that in my area was done by the time we hit there. I guess I had missed a lot of it, and you know, I had guys die, and you know, like I felt like I owed them. So like, and also, you know, you spend your whole life chomping to be the entire purpose of the infantry is to close with and destroy the enemy, right? And as weird as that may sound to some people, if you dedicate your life to that, it's like a racehorse who can't run, right? Like what the fuck am I even doing here? So it was a lot of that, but I ended up working on the quick reaction force. The idea behind that was if something bad happened, if a fight broke out somewhere, then we would mount up and we would go and we would help out, right? But in reality, what it ended up being is some vehicle would get IED'd, an improvised explosion, and usually those people would be fine because the explosives often weren't that powerful and the vehicles are very well protected, but it would like disable the vehicle and we'd have to go tow it back somewhere. And that was a lot of my tour. So that and like patrolling deserts and like just wandering around empty fields that were empty because we were there, so we needed to be doing it, but an extremely dissatisfying experience as far as being an individual soldier goes. But, you know, you do what you're supposed to do, so.
That's part of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask a question that under normal circumstances I would never ask, but that's the nature of this podcast.
Yeah.
You ever kill anyone?
No. But I should take this opportunity to say that I get asked that a lot.
I know. That's why I would never ask that.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
I understand. And it's like, it's a natural piece of curiosity, but it is like a super rude question to ask. Because like I'll get asked that at like fucking dinner parties, like over coffee, right? And so what kind of answer could anybody possibly expect, right? Mine is the best case scenario is no, right? But like also if somebody had do you want to hear about that? Does that person want to go through that again? Do you want to think about the time that you had to end a whole person, right? Like, and what if it wasn't just, like a shot into the distance? What if it was up close? Like, is that something you want to foist on somebody's day? And is that something that you want to hear about? Do you want to hear about, like, yeah, and then I had to stab him 14 times in the chest with a bayonet? Like, you don't want to fucking... So, I mean, that is definitely like a several beers deep question with somebody that you already know, like, kind of well.
Personally, I would never even ask. I actually don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, so what? I know lots of people who've killed people. So it's not. It doesn't shock me, right?
Sure, yeah.
I could care less. But on my own stuff, I get asked fucked up shit all the time. Too.
Yeah.
I've, like, one of the things, and I have a joke about it, is people ask me if I got raped when I was in prison, right?
Yeah.
Like, same thing. Over coffee, dinner parties, group of people. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
And it's not dudes, it's mostly women who ask me that, oddly enough. But anyway, it's like, and you're having a fun conversation, then all of a sudden they're asking if I got raped. Yeah. And they do it in a kind of, haha, you probably were, right?
Yeah.
And so, not the same, but similar.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind answering the question, but, like, a lot of people that would be a fucking problem for. So, I mean, like, I don't know, man. Maybe wait until you know a veteran a while before you ask that one. I mean, on the other hand, some dudes, it's just fine, Like, I had one guy who, obviously he didn't, like, genuinely mean it this way, but, like, he would glibly say, like, yeah, I got 2, and then on my next tour, I'm hoping to get a 3rd one, because, like, 3 is the minimum number for a serial killer, so, like, right? Like, just as a joke kind of a thing?
I get it. Gallows humor.
Yeah, oh, yeah, there's a fucking ton of that.
Yeah, I get that. So, you finished off the tour. It was 1 year over there, and I was...
Yeah, it was, it ended up being about 8 months. It was supposed to be a 6-month tour, but, I showed up a little bit early, and I stayed a little bit late. That. And then, I was in for another 2 years while my contract expired, and then I got out in 2012.
What made you leave the Army?
I mean, it was just kind of time. I knew I wasn't going to be a lifer, right? Like, what they offered me is they'll offer you a 3-year contract, right? When you first sign up, and then they'll offer you another 3-year contract. That's the one I signed so that I could go over, because I felt obligated, right, to take responsibility for, not having gone over the first time. And then the next contract is the remainder of your career. It's 21 years, right? And I knew that I was not going to be 21 more years in the place, right? It can be an extremely fucking frustrating environment to try and live in, right? So I just needed to go have a rest of my life, I wasn't gonna be. Every once in a while, I think about joining back up a little bit, because I do look at it with, like, a nostalgic sort of a thing. But also, I remember that there were a lot of days, like, I really couldn't drag myself, like, I could barely drag myself into work, and I fucking hated every instant of it. So, I mean, I'm happy most of the time now, so I think I probably made the right choice. Again,
similarity with prison. Sometimes I want to go back.
Yeah?
I've been out a long time, and sometimes I maybe, and you can speak to your experience, but I remember, and I still sometimes like and relish the idea of the structure that it's provided me in there. And I don't get society sometimes, especially doing comedy. Again, we'll get to that in a bit later. Like, I don't get how a lot of this shit works, and I sometimes... this might be low self-esteem, this might be self-deprecation, it might be reality, it's probably a mixture of all three. Yeah. I don't always know if I'm cut out for out here or not, right? Like, I sometimes feel like I'm on the verge of fucking either blowing up or imploding, right? And that's with doing pretty good, just because I feel like I'm not... I'm not built for it. So do you have anything similar? Or?
No, I definitely get that. The Army definitely changed me from who I was. I'm happy with the person I am, but, like, if I look at myself objectively, I see the Army in myself.
I see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you never told me you were in the Army, I'd think I wouldn't know Army necessarily, but I'd be like, this guy's something's different.
There's
about
something. Yeah. I don't know, man. It feels like I don't want to like fall back on like hackneyed, stupid bull. I mean, it feels a lot like. It feels like there's a lot of personal weakness out here that we're just accepting. I know how that fucking sounds, but it feels like if somebody does something wrong out here, then what they do is they just find some way to make it not their fault, right? They don't accept responsibility for it. You know, they find some way to blame somebody else or just get that off their plate, when it seems clear as fuck to me that you should just, okay, whatever you did, face the music. That's the point of it, right? And then go on about your life, hopefully not making that particular fuck up again, right? Or, you know, shit like that, or
something happens to them,
yeah,
and it may like, and we're not talking about serious shit, but just, you know, stuff, and they can't move on from it.
Yeah,
they have to make a villain out of it.
Yeah,
too.
Not really a lot of resilience out here. Not a lot of personal resilience. I know what I sound like, but why is everybody so fucking soft?
Brother, I don't know. I one of the reasons I do this podcast is because I need to. I'm. The goal behind this podcast is really to introduce the general public, as lofty as this might sound, to people who aren't the general public.
Yeah,
generally speaking.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, everybody who's regular. Yeah. And, okay. No offense, everybody, but soft.
Yeah.
This is what other people who aren't like that.
Yeah.
No. To be fair, though, they're doing better in some ways than we are.
It's true.
They know how to work it better than we do. Like, I'm jealous sometimes of the softer people because I'm like, fuck, man. I wish I see them they figured out the algorithm.
Yeah.
And they know, and I'm like, I fuck up as soon as I press the start button.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it makes it seem like what it takes to get ahead is like weasel shit, right?
Yes.
And I don't live up to those standards perfectly either, right? Like, there have definitely been times where I'm like not taking responsibility for myself, right? But like, it's as the standard default behavior. I mean, come on, that's a lot of people should be really embarrassed about what they're doing as humans. You know,
and again, we're not talking about human rights violations or murder or rape or anything like that.
Small personal responsibility shit. You know, like, I was late. For instance, if you're late, don't lie about it. Just, I was late. I'm sorry. I'll try not to do it again. You know, instead of like, well, there was a car crash on the thing and my house flooded. I don't care, and I don't believe you, and shut the fuck up.
Or the flakiness, especially in this city.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and it's just like, that's almost the accepted norm here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then if you're like, hey, what's with the flakiness? People like immediately jump to flakiness's defense.
Yeah.
Well, you know, people struggle with anxiety and stuff like that. I'm like, what?
Okay, well, I mean, like, are you too weak to be in the world?
Yeah.
Should you be in care somewhere?
Well, then, playing what they do is, well, it sounds like you're not very tolerant of people, right? See how the game goes. This is the part that I find I have a hard time with out here.
Yeah.
And it's probably also to do with being in an urban setting such as Vancouver, right? And
just being shoulder to shoulder with so many fucking people all the time.
And Vancouver has a certain personality here, right? And I do find the further I go outside the city, it stops being like that. Right?
Yeah, so, one of the things I like a little bit better about outside of big cities. I'm a city guy. I love it here. I really love it here. But I do notice that a little bit further outside of the cities, here people will like, you are your demographics, right? They judge you based on like what boxes you can check on a census form, right? Whereas smaller places, they'll take the time to know you and decide about you as an individual a little bit more, right? So there's that. I wish we could import a little bit of that, you know, because right now it's just a matter of like, if you call somebody out on some bullshit and they happen to be of a protected group, then they make it about how you hate the protected group. No, I hate you as an individual. I know you. I've met you. I'm comfortable making a judgment about you, and I don't like you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you just hate one of the things that I am. No.
Yeah.
I don't know. Very frustrating.
I saw someone post on my Facebook today. It's a long post, but basically he was at a gym.
Uh-huh.
And someone, from the sounds of it, a female.
Okay.
A female identifying person.
Okay.
Was using a piece of equipment.
Right.
And but wasn't using it. Was like just sitting on it texting.
Okay.
And then he said, "Hey, can I jump in?"
Yeah.
And she said, "No, I'm doing whatever the exercise
Sure,
was,
yeah.
and so basically I need to sit here the whole time. I'm going to be about half an hour using
Okay.
it." And he said, "Well, hold on." And this was a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So it's someone who works there. And I guess he went in to give her a talking to about like, hey, you know, like as a personal trainer, you really shouldn't be using the equipment during peak hours. You should
Right.
be like, and you shouldn't be monopolizing it. And
Yeah.
you should know that you always let people in when you're not
Right.
when you're not in between sets.
Yeah.
And from his story, he says she immediately went, "You're harassing me. I don't feel safe. You better back off or I'm calling the RCMP."
Yeah. Yep. I'm not surprised in the slightest.
And one thing I left out, I mean, and this, so anyone's listening who's like, well, what parts are you leaving out? The guy's gay. So who wins in that one? You know what I mean? You know that now you get into the what's the formula for who's the right, you know,
Yeah.
and it's not about like, hey, maybe that conduct wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
maybe he wasn't even cool in certain
Yeah.
ways. It sounded like he was almost picking a fight, sort of. That
I mean, that does sound a little bit like, I don't feel like there's probably...
I would have let it go. I would have
Yeah.
just been like, okay, fuck,
All right,
whatever.
I'll do another exercise.
It's pretty...
I mean,
Yeah.
Also, you can't like just dismiss the idea that like he really was being a dickhead,
True.
right? That's entirely possible as well. But like, I don't know. A lot of these things these days are
My
just
bias
a
tends to
smell test.
My bias, admittedly, for anyone listening and for my own sake, it tends to be I tend to side with the one who seems the least outraged.
Sure.
Or using those tactics that we talked about, like, oh, I'm not winning this argument, so I'm going to call the police.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I tend to not.
Yeah.
Which, it's a bias.
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong. Maybe he was yelling at her for all, right? And he's a big guy. Maybe he was scared of her, right?
Yeah, that's entirely possible. I'm a big dude a little bit myself, and like, even just, I have to modulate myself so fucking much. Just walking on the street, I get like, just glance behind, so they think I'm a threat just because I got a big set of shoulders or something, you know. I have a permanent angry line on my forehead, kind of a thing. I don't know, dude. It's fucking exhausting. I really wish people could just see me as an individual person, but I guess we're not in that kind of a world.
Especially in this setting.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, though, if you go elsewhere, it's made. I find whenever I go to smaller towns, and by smaller towns, I don't mean population 500. I just mean not like a metropolis.
Yeah.
They're not as up on all this stuff that you see on the internet, and it's like they don't know what you're talking about and stuff like that, and it's like they're just for lack of a better term, I don't know what to describe. It's like regular people. It's just like which doesn't mean racist and homophobic either, right? Like it's just they're not. Yeah. You throw terms like ableism around, they don't know what that means, right? Like they're not,
and they're probably better off for it.
Yeah,
but I bet you if you told them like, you know, like my one buddy's partially deaf, and somebody makes fun, and if somebody were to make fun of him, you know, like I bet you those small town people would be like, "Hey, don't be a fucking dickhead. He's mostly deaf. Like, cut him some slack, right? That sort of a thing." Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So you got out of the army. What'd you do after the army?
I went to school for management studies for 2 years. I'd saved up all my money. I did some like cubicle style, like mid-level management jobs. They were all right. I enjoyed it. But I got divorced, and then the price of oil crashed, and I was starting to take comedy more seriously. So I decided, okay, if things have fallen apart for me, I was in Edmonton at the time. If things have, if I don't really have anything keeping me here, then I might as well move somewhere that I've always enjoyed. So I moved here. And that's about when we met. I don't know. I went through a divorce and started telling jokes as the classic way that everybody does it.
Were you going through something and thought, I need an outlet, basically?
Kinda. I mean, I was always a huge fan of comedy, right? And I always kind of told myself that I would get into it. And when when the wife and I split and I moved into a place, there was a weekly open mic show just on the same block as me. So I just started showing up to that. And then from there, I just started showing up to all the other shows. And then as far as telling jokes goes, the rest is history. It's been super good. I really enjoy that I get to refine what's on my mind and tell people stories, and they seem to like it. So that's nice. I enjoy the shit out of it.
What I was going to say, so you were married?
I was.
How long were you married for?
The relationship in total was 6 years, but the marriage was like a Kardashian's length. It was like less than a year.
Were you in a relationship during your Army days?
Yeah. She got a hold of me when I was about 22. And when you're a young dude, you can't give away dick, right? So I thought I was really, really lucky that anybody was interested in me at all, that I could get any kind of love. So I just grabbed the first one who seemed like she was going to stick around, and she was not actually that into me at all. She was not a good match, even remotely. And so I ended up getting a divorce, fully expecting that was it for me. That was my chance. It was done. And what I didn't realize is that through your 20s, you get more attractive, right?
Because you get more confident and stuff like that.
Yeah, you get more confident.
Inadvertently, you don't...
Yeah, you get more confident. You have more stories to tell. You're more self-assured, right?
You've accomplished a couple things,
You've accomplished a couple things. The hormones in your brain telling you to relentlessly pursue vagina in an unattractive way have calmed down a little bit, right?
Well, you hit over 35.
Yeah.
You lose about 25% of that, and you start being able to think pretty rationally.
Yeah, I'm 32 now, and also it might have something to do with the current political climate, but I'm much more discerning about the ladies I keep company with now. Mm-hmm. It's very easy for me now to spot some. I mean, I still make shitty decisions, but it's much easier for me now to spot red flags and just move on to the next thing.
That's another thing, listeners, that Morris and I bond over is commiserating over some of our dating mishaps and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to, before we get into that, there's so many things to talk about. I always have an arc that I maybe am too regimented about to follow. But, so you get out of the Army. Was it hard getting out of the Army?
A little bit. I mean, I went to school, so I was an older dude, and I was still deep in the culture of it, so I was still, weird. I was still, a little bit...
Was it hard, integrating back into society, as it were?
I mean, a little, but not that much. I felt like everybody could see it, right? And I felt like it set me apart, and I found that uncomfortable. But on the other hand, a lot of people just enjoyed Army stories, and so I use that to my benefit, and it does give you a certain sort of authority, or appearance of authority. So when I went into day job shit, management, that really helped me out, to be able to treat people, to be able to, what's the best way to do this? To be the appropriate amount of a dick and have people recognize because of who I am, what is going on, to be able to say, I was working with somebody and we were scheduling construction crews, and I would watch how he would interact with the crews, and it would be very soft, very tentative, and very unsure of himself, and he'd kind of get pushed over a lot, and I would just be able to say, we're doing this, and we're doing this, And, you know, if they push back at me, I would either be able to say like, okay, I understand, let me rejig this, or I'd be able to say, you know, you're right or you're wrong, and we're gonna, one way or the other, we're gonna do the thing. And then be like, okay, well, you know, and they would respond like, okay, well, it's wrong, but I guess it's what we're doing, right? Like that. There's, like we talked about with the with having violence theoretically at the far end of the social thing, is eventually you go, well, even if it's not the right thing, it's something, and he's the boss, it's gonna fall on his shoulders if it fucks up, so whatever, I'll just do the thing, right? Yeah, so that I still feel like weirdly standoffish. I do, in a lot of ways. And that's annoying. But on the other hand, I'm much happier now with who I am as a person than I was before I went in. So I guess I'll just have to accept that. I guess I'm going to have to accept that I'm a weird, standoffish, dickheaded dude. Yeah.
I feel ya. I do. It's because we both do comedy, and again, as I was telling you about, this isn't really a comedy centric podcast,
sure, yeah,
right? And
yeah.
One of the things, all due respect to anyone who does those podcasts, the problem I find with a lot of those is people start talking about stuff that the general public doesn't really know about.
Sure,
and this
yeah.
is geared more towards the general public than comedy fans.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
So, what do you find? So you've been doing comedy 4-ish years.
Yep.
You know? You like it?
Yeah, I enjoy the shit out of it. I've always been an arguer, and so it lets me put some thoughts out in a way that's entertaining and hopefully thought-provoking. And then when I inevitably fail on that, you know, I can just fall back on telling fuck stories, and people enjoy that too. It's good. I like it. Yeah.
What do you find hard about it?
I mean, as with every single thing, every human endeavor ever, there's a strong politics aspect to it, right?
You're good at articulating this shit too, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I like talking to you about it, because you're better at... I get my fight or flight shit gets triggered too easily, so I end up everyone's an enemy really fast.
Yeah,
and I know that about myself, so I have to just... That's why I don't argue very much, because I'm like, I get... That's it. Let's fight, right? And, and so I have to. I'm just like, I'll let experts like Morris describe some of this stuff. I'm not good at this. But anyway, do go on.
Sorry, what we were talking about?
What don't you like about it? And you mentioned there's a politics involved.
Yeah. Okay. So every human endeavor on the planet has a politics thing, and comedians are often iconoclasts, are very individual people, are contrarians, right? Also are drunks, many of them, right?
Mental health issues.
And
not necessarily schizophrenia, but like anxiety and bipolar.
Yeah. Your regular soup of medium intensity mental health issues. And so it makes it kind of fucking hard to navigate this, because also, I mean, comics are interesting people and I enjoy them and I'm friends with many of them. But like it further complicates the thing. It's not just like a job. You've got to do the whole. It's like a whole lifestyle thing, and parts of the lifestyle thing are fucking aggravating.
The on stage part's actually the smallest part of it.
Yeah, honestly,
when you just talk about the time part,
yeah,
it's because one of the things I know I'm not good at with it, and I'd probably be further ahead, relatively speaking, if I was good at it. I'm not good at the sort of socializing / networking part of it.
Ditto.
I'm a recovering addict, alcoholic. I don't really like hanging around in bars too much.
Yep.
Right? Like I do, but when I'm not doing comedy and don't really have to be at one. And I just, it's like, I don't know if I should play with that fire all the time. And I don't feel comfortable all the time, right? So
that makes sense.
I also, because of some of the stuff I've been through, I find I see the world... and even if I'll take full responsibility for this, I see the world in a way that it makes it hard for me to get along with certain people.
Okay.
Right? And that's I'll wear that. That's just life.
Sure.
And maybe I could have spent a few more years working on that too.
Yeah.
But that's it. So it can be difficult. I don't like groups either.
Okay. Yeah.
Groups of people. And comics do tend to
We do. We absolutely
they group up, and I don't like groups, right?
Yep.
So I like one-on-one interactions.
Yep.
And as soon as there's like a, hey guys, we're going to do this thing, especially like, hey, we're going out for drinks.
Yep.
Two things I immediately feel like I can't belong to.
Yeah,
right? And even if it's in my head, it's like there's a lot of work I got to do in a lot of different areas all the time, pretty well, from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. And I mean emotional work and psychological work, right?
Absolutely.
And then there's the physical stuff. I have to sort of ration out where I'm going to apply the energy sometimes.
Yep, definitely.
And whether it fucks me or not, hanging around and socializing at shows and all that kind of stuff when I'm not doing comedy is just one of those ones I've decided I don't have the energy for that, right? So,
yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, okay, so I know that you're in recovery, so you don't do any drugs whatsoever, but like definitely being a pot smoker has helped my career. Absolutely.
Having little chats over the joint, right?
Exactly that. Or like there have even been points, like I'm not I don't do cocaine, but there have definitely been points where I'll be like, if I go out and do some lines with these guys, I might get something out of it, right?
How do you think Hollywood works?
And they're okay guys too, and I enjoy them the rest of the time. So like maybe I should go out and do some coke with these guys. And honestly, I have succumbed to that once or twice. I mean, I had to learn that it's not the right.
That could be deadly for me, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thing, so
right?
exactly.
So I have to keep a few steps away.
Yeah, well, and
12 steps, in fact. Okay, it's a stupid
nice.
joke.
Yeah. But I mean, even it being like, even that being less of a concern for me, even so, kind of pass. It's I don't like having to do that.
I think we all come to comedy. Okay, we all have. There's going to be a basket full of issues that pretty well we're all going to have to deal with just doing comedy.
Yep.
Like you said, there's a whole lifestyle thing that goes along to it. You got to dedicate so much time to it.
Yep.
The 5 minutes on stage is the
nothing.
smallest.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of other shit. We all got to deal with that shit, right?
Yep.
Then there's certain things that, okay, women are going to have to deal with certain things, men are going to have to deal with certain things, yada, yada, yada. And then you break it down. Then it comes down to individually.
Yep.
I'm going to have issues that are going to make comedy in some ways harder for me. Yep. And I'm going to have to work harder at because of my my personal situation. And you're going to have similar, right?
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
I say, one other thing. I seem to say the wrong thing a lot. Yeah. And my sense of humor can be a bit too harsh even for comedians sometimes, right? So I was surprised by that when I started doing comedy. I'm not even going to complain about it. That's just a fact. Yeah. And either learn to adapt or right. And
I will say our scene at least large parts of it we seem to be like I had somebody in from out of town just recently moved here, a comic from Edmonton, and he was telling me that he was a little bit surprised about the content here, how edgy it could be, because he expected it, just based on the reputation of the city, to be a lot softer and just more generic, talking about airplane food, that kind of shit, right? I mean, like, not to pay you too many compliments, but I think in large portion because of you and because of the shows that you put on, we're willing to say some horrific shit in the pursuit of our art now. And it seems to be going. So that's nice.
Well, one thing I knew right off the get-go from doing comedy, I was told the same thing. I was told by comedians, oh, no, the dark humor doesn't really work here. It's like this is a very PC, whatever synonym for that kind of scene. Audiences don't like that kind of stuff. And I knew that's which audiences? Because I know lots of people who like that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
And I think sometimes... this is a generalized statement, not directed towards anyone, but I think sometimes people, and often they're comics, don't give audiences enough credit for being able to go, no, I'll decide if that joke is funny or not. I don't give a shit what the fuck it is. Yeah, there's going to be some demographics that are going to not like certain jokes, but I don't like certain jokes.
Well, also, comedy serves a couple of purposes, and lighthearted laughs is one of them, but also... using it to deal with some heavy shit is another, right? Like, even just, like, if you make a personal joke about a very hairy situation that you've been in, it lets other people know that there's somebody else who's been in that situation, that there's a light, right? They can see you, They can see that you seem to be doing okay, right? That you have all your limbs and your sanity intact and you're able to feed yourself despite what you might be talking about on stage, right? Or at least breaks the tension of a problem, you know? Like even something as simple, okay, I have a joke right now. It's an extremely crude abortion joke, but it came directly out of a friend of mine had to get an abortion, right? And it was just going to be what it was going to be. And she was, you know, like upset but resolute about it. And so, you know, okay, now that we know what the course of action is, it's heavy as fuck. Let's try and take some of the weight off of this with some jokes. And it worked like a fucking charm. You know, there's a purpose to that. There's a reason that we use comedy, that we use funny things that way.
Sometimes a very tough idea is easier to transmit in a joke than it is in serious conversation.
Yeah.
And then in my case, which I've learned the hard way many times, and I'll just continue learning, sometimes a joke is not the way to transmit that.
Yes.
Depending on who you're talking to, right?
That is also very, very true.
I've also found that most comedians are more normal than I thought they would be.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, right? Like, I thought most of them would be, like, come from dysfunctional homes and I'm amazed I'm the only one who's been to prison. I'm amazed. Like, really? Seriously?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I'm amazed I'm one of the only ones who's ever had a serious hardcore drug problem.
Yeah.
Like, I know people there's drug issues, but like actual addiction, fucking fucked up and maniac. Yeah. I'm amazed I'm the only one. Like, I'm very surprised by that, right?
Yeah. Okay, so not to interview you, but okay, so comedians some of them definitely have problems with drugs, and they'll go into rehab, you know, that sort of a thing. You know, we know, between us, we know several current or former cokeheads or whatever. But like, they're still holding their life together. Is there a part of drug addiction that goes like, yeah, well, you're not really...
Absolutely. That's the majority of drug addiction. So let's just, for the sake of conversation, we're diagnosing them. They're addicts, okay. Right? The majority of drug addicts are not downtown east side junkies. Okay. The majority of addicts are able to remain addicted. Okay. Because the 15% of drug addicts are downtown east side junkies. And as long as you have one that you're better than. Yeah. Even if I miss my rent once every 2 months, at least I'm not homeless. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Fair enough. I'm only snorting it. Yeah. I never buy it. I only do it if it's around. Yep. All the ones you hear. Yeah. This fentanyl stuff, in some ways I felt started leveling the playing field. Yeah. Because now it's like you can OD even if you're normal. Yep. Right? Even if you're just having a good time with the fellas. Yep. Right? Because people would be like, oh man, now we have to be afraid of scoring. It's like, and I'd be like, oh, welcome to my Friday night, man. Fucking all the dope I've ever done in my entire life, I could have killed me. Yeah. And you just knew that going into it. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's way more deadly now, but it's like, I'm like, oh, really? You could die if you do your little druggy drugs? And you don't see that as a relief? Yeah. You know, that's where I was. Like, oh, well, doing the zap, and it's like, oh, that might kill you. Yeah, great, cool.
I mean, cool, I guess.
But, so, that's what I found is kind of, these are some of the things I've found for me, whether it's my fault and I could do work on it more or whatever, and I'm not going to whine, but I'm going to say it's true. It handicaps me to a certain degree. Sure. Yeah. And that's okay. You can make it work in spite of that, though. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think that's the challenge of when you come and you go, okay, here's what I'm working with. Here's the good. Here's the bad. Let's be brutally honest with myself. Yep. Okay. The bad stuff or the things you could improve on. Are you willing to? How much effort are you willing to do to improve on those? Yep. And what alternatives can you do if you're actually handicapped, like quadriplegic, you can't walk. Yeah. You can't literally do stand-up comedy. Yeah. What do you do instead? Yep. Absolutely. Guys make it work. We know guys who've made it work. Absolutely. So and mine is mine, yours is yours, theirs is theirs. Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah. We all got some struggles. So.
Yeah. What do you think about what's going on in comedy? Do we want to talk about this?
I don't know. Do we? I mean, maybe.
I don't give a shit personally.
Right,
but it's not that I'm scared of like backlash or anything like that. I could care less. It's more like, is it a lot of information? Because remember, this isn't all. Comedians aren't listening to this, right? And it's like, for the listeners, we have some comedy politics that we're just not sure. I'm not sure that you want to hear or not. I mean, now that I've said it, you're like, the listeners are going,
so let's frame it this way then. All over our society, we're getting like a cultural shift about what is or isn't acceptable, and in a lot of the ways it's genuinely helping people, but also in a lot of cases it is providing an opportunity for like bullies and people with like various types of losers to like get power and exercise it over other people. We're seeing it in comedy. You see it in like universities. You see it in a lot of workplaces. So there's a lot of people that I've noticed going around whose what they say their goal is good and noble, helping victims, making a better society, increasing the levels of tolerance in all of us. But what they're actually doing is just the lowest form of self-serving, power-hungry evil, right? Just the evil of personal weakness. So there's a lot of that going on. And it really, really sucks that in order to stand up to awful human beings, these days you are sometimes accused of being against good goals. But that goes back to that thing, in my opinion, where some people judge people by their demographics and some people judge people as individuals, right? And so I think we can all agree that nobody should be treated badly or differently because of their demographics. But a lot of people are hiding behind their demographics when in fact they are just low quality individuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember Vancouver comedy has a stand-up forum.
Right.
The second to last straw that broke this camel's back. So I'm no longer... For the listeners, it's a stand-up forum where ostensibly comics can go to post about shows, ask for information. Hey, I need a ride to Squamish. Anyone got a car?
Theoretically, it's a professional association.
Hey, anyone heard this joke? I hope I'm not accidentally stealing it from someone or anything like that. Hey, there's a show coming to town. We need an opener. That kind of stuff. Right?
Yep.
Over the last few weeks, it's turned into a lot of talk about sexual harassment and abuse.
Right.
A lot of people coming forward with their own stories of being victims of sexual harassment and of abuse. Some people saying people are accusing me of sexual harassment and abuse, and I didn't do that.
Yep.
And then not a lot of comedy, I noticed, being talked about there, right? And, okay, whatever. I guess this is the time people need to come forward or whatever. And people need to feel that they're supported and their voice is heard and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, we do have to watch out for the people in our community.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And because comedy isn't a proper organization with a human resources department or like you can't get fired from it, really.
It's not easy to solve some of these actual genuine problems.
We actually do have to police ourselves.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, so the second to last straw that broke the camel's back for me was one of these discussions got started.
Yep.
About something. I can't even remember what the original post was. And it had to do with a guy who's based out of New York, but he's from Toronto, Aaron Berg. He's really funny.
Okay.
He posted on Twitter publicly that he had been an independent producer had said they can't work with him because his act has too much sex material in it.
Right.
Not rape.
Yep.
Sex material.
Yep.
Right. Otherwise known as blue material in comedy. Right. I've seen his act.
This is like fully half of everyone's act.
Yeah. It's really graphic sex stories. It's and gross. And it's mostly self-deprecating too.
I mean, I tell those too.
Yeah. Fuck, most of us do.
Right?
Anyway, he does it really well though. He's really funny. Really funny. So Aaron Berg, anyone who wants to check him out, he's really funny. Yep. Seriously, really funny. Is. He posts this on Twitter. He posts a screenshot of the letter that he got from the producer Information removed, so we don't know who it is.
Yep.
Because he's being professional. But and he just said, we got to be careful. This is what it's coming to.
Yep.
It's a reaction. In the letter, it stated that this is a reaction because of the hashtag #MeToo stuff, the Harvey Weinstein stuff, and Just for Laughs president, founder, CEO, or whoever he is, has been charged with sexual assault. Right? Yeah. So this independent producer was saying, okay, we got to be careful, basically, and anything to do with sex is a problem right now.
Yeah.
Not gonna... Okay. As someone who does blue or dark material, it's like, fuck.
Yep.
Are they coming?
Yep.
But I do understand why the producer would be reluctant, too, though.
Sure, but also I hear the distant sound of marching Nazi boots.
Absolutely. Get to that one in a second, but let's just finish this story.
Yeah.
Discussion. Someone posts this letter on the Vancouver stand-up forum, and a discussion ensues. Mainly from people who either don't do much stand-up comedy or don't live in Vancouver.
Yep.
Mainly from people who do not do blue material.
Yep.
Mainly from people who are not professional comedians. By the way, I'm not a professional comedian. I'm an almost semi-professional comedian.
Yeah.
But anyway. Mainly from people who don't really need to be worried about this.
Yes.
Their act is fairly clean. It's not something that would ever come up in their case, right? One guy ends up saying something along the lines of what you just said. Comedy is a way to talk about uncomfortable topics.
Yep.
And he said something to the effect of comedy removes the power from the tragic event. Yep. I'm paraphrasing quite a bit, but basically...
I agree.
Someone said, a comic who's not from Vancouver said, okay, how does comedy remove the power from rape? And I'm not trying to be confrontational.
Right.
And I knew they were lying.
Yeah.
They were going to be confrontational. And I went, okay, let's watch this, right?
Yep.
Then he explained it. And then they started saying, sounds like people are just, telling women how to react to things, and like, as a white male of course, who doesn't been raped, how do you know how to speak to anything,
right?
Etc. That usual thing, right?
You are your demographics before you are you as an individual.
Right. And I said, so much for not all the comment I made, which was, yes, admittedly didn't help, but I said so much for not being confrontational,
right? And
then she said, it sounds like you're to me, she said, it sounds like you're just trying to tell women how to speak. Mm-hmm. You're tone policing.
Yep.
And I said, had nothing to do with you being a woman. Nice try, though.
Yep.
And then you're being a hypocrite. Nice try. You're speaking to sexual abuse stuff, and it's like, meanwhile, me and the guy who she was talking about are both sexual abuse survivors, but we didn't bring that up.
Yep.
Because I don't need to bring that up to...
Yep.
I don't need to use my victim demographic or my victim points to debate things.
Yeah.
It's funny if I did, though. It would have changed the discussion, though.
Yeah.
Maybe not even, though. Because these days, and I've talked about this on a separate podcast, one of the new things with male survivors is it used to be it's hard to come forward anyway as a male survivor for you might be gay, men can fight back, men don't get raped.
Yep.
But now... radical feminists say that we shouldn't be talking about it because it's distracting from the female conversation.
Yes.
Right? So
I definitely heard that.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard that a lot.
So there's a podcast that deals with that.
Fair
We're
enough.
not going to get into it. It's an interesting one. I interviewed this founder of the BC Society for Male Survivors of Sexual Abuse. He talks about some of the data on male survivors of sexual abuse.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't know when our episode here is going to be released, but it's a good one. Anyway.
Okay.
I don't know when that one's going to be released, so this one may be first.
Okay, all right.
So I don't want to do comedy and have those conversations.
Sure.
I didn't get into comedy to have those conversations.
Yep.
I had my part to play. I didn't need to chime in.
Yeah.
But when it's like right away you're telling women how to speak, it's like, no, I was telling a person. I don't see gender, remember?
Yeah.
Right? But it's like it's such an easy thing to just immediately use.
Just hide behind your demographics.
Yeah. Or you disagree with something. You're a rape apologist. Whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like that. And now it's like you can't... Now someone's thrown something that heavy out. How do you even have a discussion anymore?
Yeah.
Right? Because now I've been knocked off kilter, theoretically, because now my morality's in question.
Yeah.
Right? I'm being accused of being a rape apologist.
Yep. Yeah, and how do you deal with that?
Who wants to be a rape apologist? Who wants to be racist? Who wants to be homophobic?
Nobody.
Even racists and homophobics don't really believe they are often, right?
Yeah.
So when you accuse them of it, that's why they get defensive.
Right.
Not saying they're right,
yeah.
but that's why there's, no, I'm not. It's because most people really don't think they're doing the shitty things that they are.
Yeah.
Myself included,
yeah.
right? But it's a hard way to argue when you go, you're a racist. That's a racist comment.
Yeah.
Is easier to debate than
Sure.
you're a racist.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it shouldn't matter whose mouth something comes out of. What's right is right. What makes sense. What you can logically defend, you can logically defend. And what has happened to you or who you happen to be shouldn't make any fucking difference.
No.
No.
Well, I mean, here's a classic example for me. Rape jokes, you're never allowed to tell them no matter what, under any circumstances, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Some people say, not a lot of people. Not everyone says that.
Okay.
A lot of people do. But
yeah.
There's shows that are based on rape jokes
Yep.
that are told by survivors.
Yep.
I hear people laugh at prison rape jokes that aren't even really that good, and they rely just on a dumb premise of, he dropped the soap in the shower. Like,
Yep.
we all knew that when we were fucking 5 years old,
Yep.
right? But I'm not... whatever, I got raped in prison. I don't... Yeah, go ahead. Fucking, if the joke's funny, go for it, right? Even if it's not funny, well, okay. The audience will tell you.
Not for me, I guess.
Yeah, if the audience consistently doesn't laugh at it.
And not everything has to be for everybody.
No. And
right?
if I really get bothered by a rape joke, especially if everyone else laughed and I'm the only one who had a problem with it, I'll leave the room.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
In fact, I've even helped people with their prison rape jokes. I'm like, no, that's actually factually incorrect. Here's how they actually rape.
That is quite the research to do, right?
How rapes happen in prison is so complicated, though it's hard to make funny. There's too many steps along the way. But yeah, anyway.
Fair enough.
So you're doing comedy now. You work for film.
Yep.
You started a one-man show, or you've started it. You've performed it.
I've done it. I've done it a handful of times. It's still evolving. I haven't done one of these before. I recently got a director, which is something I've done for the first time ever. But it's really starting to pick up some traction. I'm fairly proud of the state it's in so far, but I'm still constantly redoing it. And I think, not to jinx myself, but knock on wood, I think this Fringe season, I might try and take it around the country.
Did you apply to the Fringes?
Just the one that I spotted open at the time. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. That's what I did. I just applied for one and I got in.
Nice.
My first time doing it, I wouldn't have wanted to do a whole shitload. I wasn't confident enough in it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. What's the name of it? The show?
I Left My Heart in Massamgar.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
How was the first one? You've done one or two?
I've done 2 full size and then 3 shorter versions.
So 5.
Yeah.
How was the reception, do you think?
Everybody seemed to really, really like it, which is great. Because when I first started, I really didn't think anybody would appreciate any of the military material, right? But it turns out they do. People seem to really enjoy it. I talk really frankly about the culture of the Army, or some stuff that's happened. I talk about that vehicle that got IED'd that I should have been in, and
that's a good story.
Yeah, thank you.
And I probably didn't even hear the polished version of it, right?
You didn't, but just the we had a detainee at one point and dealing with him and that sort of thing that civilians will probably, most of them, never ever get to hear, and they seem to really, really enjoy it. So the demographics of my audience seems to skew older than...
That's Fringe. You'll notice that if you do Fringe, it's mostly older people.
Yeah, it's a slightly different audience than I normally play to, but they really seem to dig my shit. And
they generally do. A Fringe audience will, if your show is good, they'll like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then stuff that I never ever thought regular people would be able to find funny, they're able to find funny just because you're on a whole arc, an entire story that's quite long, and so you can drag people in, and they'll be on board for stuff that they would not be on board for in a 20-minute regular comedy set. So that's really nice. I'm enjoying the shit out of it, and it seems to be going well. So hopefully I get to keep doing that.
Again, I don't know when this episode is going to be released, but let's just say, for the sake of it, where can someone find your show in the next few months?
If you Google "I Left My Heart in Massangar," then you will definitely find some upcoming dates. I think I'm looking at mid-January for the next one. We're still nailing down the venue, though.
And when I do release this, no matter what, I will have an intro where I'll ask what your dates are, and I'll include social media and all that shit. Yeah. Right? I think we've covered quite a bit, eh?
Yeah. All right. How much time did we do?
1 hour, 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, what I close out with all my guests.
Sure.
Same question. For the average person,
right,
listening to this, is there anything you'd like them to know? Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, we live in an extremely crazy time, politically speaking, and the news will tell you that you can't trust the news. It's very hard to know what to believe or who to follow or what is even really going on anywhere. So I think, not that I can speak from a place of authority, but I feel like we should all probably try to work on paying close attention to what is going on in our individual neighborhoods and social circles, paying good attention to that and speaking up for what you feel is the right thing in those circumstances. I feel like we should all be paying a little bit less attention to to what is supposedly going on in some other place, and we should be working on just being our best selves in our individual thing. We seem to be lacking a lot of that. And I think it would help us out a lot if we could all just work on being individually better people.
Excellent.
Preachy as fuck.
But it is what it is, and it's a good message. We've been joined by Morris Bartlett. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I said thanks for. I said what you were supposed to say.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, though, buddy.
Yeah.